Hello and welcome to nationalhsfb.com. I'm your host, Larry Godwin, with my counterpart, Joe Mamone from Prep Gridiron Logistics. Thank you for joining us this morning. We've got Jeff Fisher joining us in our conversation today. Jeff is the owner of a digital media company. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's a well-known guy in the world of high school football. The name of his company is High School Football America, that focuses on producing original high school sports content for radio, television, and the internet. And he focuses on high school football. He's an award-winning journalist and expert in the area of prep high school football. He's been featured on national networks like CNBC. So this morning we've got joining us Jeff Fisher. Jeff, welcome to nationalhsfb.com. Thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be here. Looking to chop it up a little bit with you guys.
Absolutely. Joe's going to lead us off in our conversation. So Joe, take it away.
All right, Jeff. Hey, thanks for being with us. Obviously, those who follow high school football know that you're a leader in all that we do, and we appreciate you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a fun thing to do, right? High school football.
Exactly. So we have a couple of questions from our loyal posters on our forum. The first one is from Buford Lady Wolf. It's, how is your poll different from any of the others?
Well, it's an algorithm versus an opinion poll. I mean, that's it as simply as I can put it. This is the 10th anniversary coming up in 2022. So back in 2013, I created an algorithm. We started in 12 with an opinion poll. And I just kind of felt there needed to be a better way to do it, and sat down and had a little bit of background in how things like that are done and created it up. And you know, it's been pretty successful. I mean, people really enjoy it. We have a partnership with the NFL. NFL Play Football now uses our rankings. Flow Football, thanks to you, uses our rankings as well. And we do a top 100, but we've now expanded it over the years, and we're actually at 300. And a little breaking news, last year we did 1 through 200 with kind of an honorable mention 100. This year we're definitely doing 1 through 300. So that means I'll have more people screaming at me.
Especially yours truly, right?
You're pretty good at that, Joe. You got that down pat. I thought your friends were supposed to be nice to you, but you know, I love you to death.
Iron sharpens iron. I'm trying to make it perfect.
I hear you. Hey, Jeff, when you launched this algorithm, I guess to kind of best as you could take the subjectivity out of it from just one person or two people, that kind of stuff, you kind of try to make it as objective as you can. In doing that, I don't want you to give away trade secrets. That's not what I'm asking you. But in doing that, how do you account for the weighting of some programs over other? Because some programs obviously, you know, play tougher national schedules, while other programs are more regional based or state based. How do you account for those types of variabilities?
Very carefully.
Okay. Great answer, man.
No, and I'll tell you this, every year, and Joe knows this, every year I go and examine what we did with it. So It is not an exact science. And there is no way on God's green earth that will ever become perfect unless, you know, maybe the top 25 teams end up playing each other on a very regular basis throughout the year. Then you got a little bit better shot at it. And, you know, hey, if we ever get a national championship, that would be even easier on me. But really what started the algorithm, and I'll probably have people in West Virginia be mad at me, but there was a USA Today preseason poll. And I used to work with USA Today back in the day, did some podcasts for them. And Martinsburg, Virginia, a great program in the state of West Virginia, was ranked number 21, 22, or 23. And my fan hat went on at that point, and I said, you know, as much as I love the Bulldogs, I've been to their stadium, I'm not sure that they really equate to a top 25 team in the nation. So I kind of felt like, was there a way to look at the power states, if you will, and somehow weight it a little bit? And then, of course, we have our state rankings, but on the national basis, could we do that? And could we look at the Floridas, the Californias, the Texases, the Georgias, the Ohios, on and on? I'm trying not to leave out a state there, and then start weighting it, and then look at things like tradition. Look at the guys that are playing that strength of schedule that's very, very good. And then the overall strength of schedule for the state. Now, Joe and I always chop it up on that one. and complain a little bit. But there's some up and coming states out there like a Tennessee, a South Carolina, and hopefully, with Joe's help and Prep Gridiron Logistics, they'll be able to start playing these interstate battles, which we all love to see, because then you get a little bit of a chance to go, aha, so maybe so and so is better than so and so. But again, no offense to West Virginia, but that's how it all got started.
Yeah, and my biggest pet peeve, as you know, Jeff, at the end of the season, when I look at the top 25, I just wish there was a rule, whether you and the other major polls adopt it. In my opinion, no school with a strength of schedule less than, say, 30 should be able to be in the top 25. It sounds simple, but I guess it's not that simple to do, because there's a lot of teams. I just looked at the rankings at the end of last season. There's a lot of teams who didn't play a tough schedule that were just granted a top 25 ranking because they were undefeated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we know in years past, we had a mythical national championship crowned a few years ago with 2 losses because their strength of schedule is so great. That's the way it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah. It again, I'm not copping out by saying it's not an exact science, and I don't disagree with you. What I will say, we do not post our numbers from the algorithm because, quite honestly, they don't mean anything. And I look at Cal Preps usually at the beginning of the year and the end of the year. So that's what you're quoting there when you say a strength of schedule of. And I could, pull that apart just like they could pull mine apart, because I see some teams in there that I think have a definite better strength of schedule that isn't up there, but they're a higher ranked team. I look at it every year. I told you, kind of off when we were having a conversation a couple of weeks ago, I've done some things differently this year that I saw. Some of that was caused by COVID, and I'm not blaming anything on COVID. I'm just saying COVID's been a little weird over the last couple of years, as you know, when it comes to the football games and all that. So we try to get it better, but strength of schedule does have to come into play there. And like I said, we do have a state strength that may be the one that kind of tips us. And you're probably talking about let's say a Center Grove from Indiana, a Thompson, some of the Alabama teams and all that. But those, Indiana's dropped. That's one of the things we noticed as we're starting to work on 2022. Indiana's dropped, but Alabama's come up. But I realize that you're one of those guys that would like to see Alabama play some other teams. And Hoover's done it, and Thompson's looking to do it a little bit more. But it's real interesting. But, strength of schedule should be something. Our strength of schedule is always pretty good. Indiana has had a high state strength, which has helped Center Grove and the Cathedrals of the world. And Cathedral, of course, plays a great out-of-state schedule. They're afraid of no one. So, we're always looking at it and doing it. But the one thing I will never, ever, ever do, because this is the other question that I get, guys, is, now, do you see something there you don't like and want to change it? I have never done that, even if Joe wants to yell and scream at me for 10 minutes.
Is that right?
I'll keep
Remember
it,
that happened. That happened way back when the polls had it split between Bosco and Trinity. That's when all this was at its peak.
Yeah, I think you had Katie, because we had I can't go back to when it was, but I won't do it. I mean, I'm sticking to this. The neat thing, I'll tell you, as much as I said people complain, and we don't get that many complaints, but the coaches have really respected what we've done. It's made a big difference in what we do as a company. People wanting to read highschoolfootballamerica.com and that. So to be honest with you, I'm not trying to please anybody, but when the coaches say that, I at least feel a little bit better about it.
And Jeff, just so you know how we work at PGL, when we're putting games together, we talk to the teams and we actually pay them more money for hosting a better team or playing a better team. And our thought process is, hey, you want this for not only the additional exposure, but for your rankings at the end of the season with your strength of schedule. So teams actually approach me and they'll say, I want to play this team. And I'll say, okay, for that game, that's a 3-star game. You're getting this amount of money. However, if you play Aquinas, St. Francis, Mater Dei, Bosco, Miami Central, you're going to get more money. And some of them do that, and it ends up helping them in a big way. You look at last year, Springfield Central, Springfield Central, East St. Louis. They all took beatings at the hands of the elites, but they went on to win their state easily, and the strength of schedule was better for it.
Yeah, and East St. Louis was one of the oddities in the algorithm last year in the rankings because they lost at the end in the 6A championship in Illinois, but in our overall national rankings, they were higher than the team that beat them, and they were an undefeated team. Why was that? Well, you know who the Flyers played, right? They played Bosco. They play all of these teams. So yeah, I love what you're doing to put those games together. It's great for the algorithm. It's great for the fans. It's great for the game of high school football. And just like we talk to a lot of coaches, and to a man, there's not one coach out there of these nice programs, the guys that have been around, they've got that tradition that will say, they'll all say, you know what? I'll take that L. I'll take 2 L's. If it gets me to the point where I can win a state championship because those 2 L's taught our kids something, then we'll do it. So, mentality is changing. The zero in the loss column is nice, but the programs that really get it don't mind it. They're talking about competing and competing against the best to be the best.
Jeff, when it comes to releasing a poll for the upcoming season, some media companies will release a preseason poll and then they'll carry those teams over into the regular season and adjust as teams win or lose. Do you do that, or do you wait until a couple of weeks after the regular season started to see what the true gauge is of a team? How do you like to do it?
Awesome question, Larry. I hate preseason rankings. Can I just stop there?
There you go.
You want me to expand upon that? We began, and I can't remember if it was 13 and 14 or whatever. And as we all know, the season stacks up where guys are starting, after Hawaii and Alaska. Then we've got like a group of 5 or 6 that start around the 20th of August, and then more. And then my home state of Pennsylvania wasn't playing till Labor Day. So we literally, in the first 2 years, didn't do the rankings at all until the 5th week of the season. And that was the biggest thing I've ever got a complaint on. I mean, it was really, really crazy. So there's no way with an algorithm, at least opinion wise, yes, you can do it. But with an algorithm, it's hard. We pull out of a lot of the criteria. I mean, we're using strength of schedule. We're using tradition. You look at the number of players come back, and we have a kind of way to plug all that in. But I really prefer not to do it. I think if you wait, I don't know if the middle of September is right, but at least it gives you a look, especially when you have guys like Joe and Prep Gridiron Logistics out there putting together these great week 1, 2, and 3 interstate matchups. It would make it a little bit more accurate, but I'm not all about the clicks, but I'll tell you, it brings clicks
Sure.
to the website. But if I had my druthers, I would not do it until sometime mid-September. I think it's a more accurate way to go.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Jeff, this upcoming season, after the August 26th weekend, we're going to know a lot of how good some teams really are.
Yeah.
There's so many great, highly ranked teams going to be playing each other that weekend all over America. It's going to make the pollsters' jobs a little easier, in my opinion.
Yeah. And a look into, and like I said, I joke that we get complaints and I got to have a thick skin, but we have been treated very, very fairly by the fans on our rankings. And one thing that I will tell you, I get most of the time, going back to your previous question, is people don't like to see teams with 1 and 2 and sometimes 3 losses in the top 25.
Yeah.
That's a complaint of theirs. And I just have to go back to what you and I talk about all the time, which is you want to be the best, play the best. And if you take a couple of L's against a top ranked team, so be it.
So when you do end of season polls, like last year, Collins Hill just ran through the Georgia schedule like nobody's business. They were just obviously head and shoulders better than every Georgia team. But when they got into the postseason exhibition game they played, they took an L.
Mm-hmm.
They took an L. They took an L to a team with a 22.4 strength of schedule too.
Yeah. So when you consider that, do you stop that ranking at the end of their season, or do you consider that post-season exhibition game?
Yeah, no, we considered it, and again, got some flack on it because it dropped the Eagles out of the top 25 to number 26, I believe. But they were beaten by a team that was, I think, at the time 375 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Washington State. So, again, not perfect, but yes, we do count what happens in the Geico, and it was a shock to many.
Yeah,
hell of a game.
It was.
Hell of a game, by the way.
Yeah, it was a very entertaining game.
It was no doubt about that. But yeah, I mean, games are games, and as long as they count. The other thing that we get, speaking of what games count and what games don't count, are the kickoff games in Florida. Mm-hmm. And that one's been answered very simply, although I get a lot about it. I think, let's see, who was it? Venice, John Peacock. He was all over me after they did a good job against Northwestern in their kickoff classic. And they were ranked lower than Northwestern in our preseason rankings. And he goes, hey, we kicked their. I said, yeah, I saw that, but it doesn't count. The FHSAA does not count that as a win or a loss, so we can't count it as a win or a loss either. So,
and when I talk to Coach Peacock, I'm saying if you wanted to count, schedule a team from California, Texas, or Georgia instead on that week, so it does count.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's been that way. It's calmed down because people now understand it, but even Coach didn't know at that point. And as it turned out, they ended up being a top 25 team. And interesting things happen along the way. Corona Centennial. Love Matt Logan, got to know him very well when I lived in Los Angeles, and we were basing the company out there. And they have been, Bosco's been the number one team in the 9 years that we've done the algorithm. In addition to their 19 national championship, they had a couple of number twos. They had a 3. I think they've been in our top 25 every year except the COVID year. Corona Centennial isn't too far behind them. But the algorithm, again, when I get back to do I change it or anything, literally had the Huskies losing their first 5 games last year because they played one tough schedule. You know that, Joe, right? And of course, I've got a lot of friends over there in Corona. They're like, have you lost your mind? You have us ranked in the honorable mention 201 to 300. I said, well, I don't personally. If I could change it, I would, but that's what it said. But very quickly with 5 huge wins, and who knows if they had played Mater Dei, right? In that season opener that they were supposed to play that turned into a scrimmage because of COVID. But, they were able to climb all the way up and break into the top 25. And Joe and I discuss this all the time. I mean, the job Coach Logan does there is incredible. I mean, they probably are the number one public team in America. They didn't get it last year, but, if I had that's the other question. What if you did an opinion poll? It would probably be pretty close, but there would be some tweaks in there, such as one like that.
Yeah.
There's only one way to see if they are the number one public, Jeff. To have them play Westlake.
I don't, and I know why Matt can't do it. It's a budgetary problem. And that's the other thing that maybe we can, because I'd like your opinion on this too, is, there are schools out there that are very good programs that are hamstrung by budgets. And I'm not saying they're poor schools. I'm just saying economics are economics nowadays. So some of these teams can't afford to go across the country or the next over state and that sort of thing. So, that's something that comes into play too. And I don't know if you penalize, schools for that or not. We don't in the algorithm. I'm just saying in an opinion poll, what do you do with that?
Yeah. If we created a poll of the top 5 programs that we'd love to see travel, but they can't, Corona Centennial will be number 1 by far. But they do play a great in-state schedule, including the Trinity League, which gives them a little buffer and shows us every year how good they really are.
Yep.
Yeah, so, no doubt about that. And they've got the new league this year, Vista Murrieta coming over. That should help them out a little bit. But yeah, I still think, when you get to that level, that's another question. When you get to that level and you don't play a good in-state schedule, that says something about you too. I mean, going to Arizona or Nevada, I get that's a cost, but maybe going up the road to play, I'm trying to think of some teams there. There's a couple of good teams like in Bakersfield, that sort of thing. You need to do stuff like that, I believe.
Yeah. Well, let me get your opinion on something. We're talking about algorithms and trying to be objective. Now, this is a question where you're going to have to solely rely on your opinion. Okay. And I'm sure you get asked this all the time. So,
We'll see. Let's see the question.
You're gonna offend some people out there, I'm sure, with this question. So, in your opinion, in this upcoming season, who are the top high school states?
States? Okay,
States.
good. I'm glad.
Larry let you off the hook there.
I'm not going to put you on the spot and say which team is the best and all that stuff.
Yeah, I was all ready to, dive and move, but no. Okay. Well, what I can tell you, and I'm just almost wrapped up on this. Florida was the top state last year. California was 3. Texas was 2. Probably if I. So
Can
my
I jump in
opinion.
here?
You want my opinion?
Yeah.
Let me jump in here, Jeff. I don't
Go
want
ahead.
you to. People aren't giving enough credit right now to the DMV area with the WCAC schools plus St. Francis. They have to be. In my opinion, they've knocked Georgia and Ohio down out of 4 and 5. They're somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah,
Come
but,
on, Joe.
But no, and again, if you're going opinion, I went with algorithm to try and dodge. But if you go with opinion, I agree with Joe on that. There's no doubt about it. There's not a lot of teams there, right? I mean, it's not, because let's face it, aside from the big time guys in DC and then the DeMathas and
it's 5. They're a top 5.
Yeah,
could play with any state's top 5 in America and probably at least win 3 of those games.
Yeah, but the question is, what's the best state?
Right,
so,
exactly.
So
yeah.
that's why I go away from that. Now, if you want to talk about the best, Trinity, WCAC, the greater Catholic outside of Cincinnati,
the BNU, New Jersey.
Yeah, the South region in Georgia, right, with Colquitt and Lowndes, and
did you say that because of that helmet behind his right shoulder?
Absolutely, man. He's playing up to the host.
I love Jamie DuBose. Jamie's been a big fan of High School Football America for a long time. We knew him when he went from Prattville to Florence, and then I saw him when he was at Central. I just believe one of the great coaches, one of the great men in the sport of football, and there's a lot of them. I mean, what do we have? How many coaches around the country? But Jamie ranks up there, not because he likes us, but the way he does things is right.
Mm-hmm.
So you still want me to answer that? But I think if it was my opinion, okay, so here's what I always say to people.
Yeah.
And this is opinion. So Jeff / High School Football America, we have traveled the country to get people to understand who we are. That was my philosophy. We don't have Max Prep CBS money, right? I don't have $1 billion budget. It's my money and Trish Hoffman's money. And then we, of course, have sponsors and partners that we work with. So the way we built the company was we moved from the eastern part of Pennsylvania, where I was from. So I knew New Jersey, Pennsylvania. They knew me. Moved to Chicago. We moved to Los Angeles to do something out there. And now we're in the Southeast, and they play some decent football down here, I've heard. But anyway,
a little bit.
Yeah, well, just a little bit. So as that is the backdrop, and I've seen football in 19 states in person, and I think right now in-person games I'm up over 1,500, and I don't know how many I've watched on tape. So I've seen a lot of it. So here's the way I always answer this. So what are the best states? Well, California has, especially Southern California, the southern section has some of the greatest athletes in the country. Don't think it has the true tradition of what we think of as the Friday Night Lights. Florida may fall into that same category there. Great athletes, but they do have that pocket of great programs, just like the Mater Dames and Boscos. You got the Northwesterns, you got the Miami Central. So you've got that, but I don't think you have the tradition there either. Okay. So living in Georgia now, they have the tradition and they play some great football. When you go to those conferences like Joe's talking about there, absolutely. I mean, those games are great and fun to watch and great ravenous fan bases, but it's kind of stuck to that. So with that being said, and I'm going to see Joe's face in a second, I probably should look at him while I say this. For the pure Friday Night Lights part of it, Texas is the best state as a fan, I believe, because you get everything and there's some great football there. But give me a game in any state, and let's not leave out, some New Jerseys in there, some Pennsylvanias in there. I'm enjoying Tennessee football right now. It's great. I think Alabama football is getting very good right now, but they're all pretty good. But Joe, you know it, because those teams there in that DC area, they've been good for a long time. Now St. John's has come to the party, and it's making it even better and better.
St. Francis is our preseason number one on nationalhighschoolfootball.com. We've already, after my visit there, and I had a meeting with the coach, and he told me what's going on and the talent they're bringing in there, and the sheer number of starred players that are going to be starting. He sold me that day, so they're going to start out our preseason number one on this website, nationalhighschoolfootball.com.
Well, I got to throw a question back at you two guys then.
Right.
It's like, okay, Larry and Joe, or Joe and then Larry, however you want to do it. What do you think the best state for high school football is? And I would love to know what you're kind of basing that on. So take a shot.
Well, I would actually have to agree with you. I think Texas is the top of the list. And then right behind that is probably California in that southern area. And then I would probably put Florida behind that. And then right behind at a close fourth would be Georgia. Mm-hmm. That's how I would rank it. Especially now, back in the day of Valdosta dominating, you could make a clear case that Florida was head and shoulders above Georgia, other than just a handful of teams in Georgia. But now that in the last 10 to 15 years, Jeff, I've just seen that the coaching in Georgia has gotten tremendously better. I don't know why that is. Maybe we brought in coaches from other states, whatever. But the coaching quality has gotten way better. And the athletes, for some reason, especially in that metro Atlanta area, has just exploded. I can't explain it. Some people attribute that to recruiting. Some people say transfers, whatever the case might be. It's obvious when you put super athletes together, assembled on one team, and on top of that, great coaching. That's why Georgia, I think, is just mere inches behind Florida as a whole. I
agree. Joe?
Yeah, and I'm a top 1%er. Jeff is a purist. He cares about all 16,000 high school football teams in America. I care about the top 1 or 2% because that's who I deal with. So in that respect, I would have Cali number 1, Florida number 2, Texas number 3. I'd have Maryland, D.C. area we just spoke about, Georgia, and then Ohio.
Yeah, I have no problem with any of that. I will say this to you, Larry. I lived in Atlanta, 2003, 4, 5, maybe, before I came back here in 18. And the football has gone, I mean, it's always been big, but the sheer number of teams that are good with a lot of talent and all that. And this is the other thing when people ask me, again, what's the best state? I will say right now, Georgia may be the most physical state that I've ever watched football in, from top to bottom. And what I mean by top to bottom is 7A to 1A. You get into those top 4 1A teams on the public side, the Irwin counties, and I'm trying to
Brooks County,
Brooks County. All those teams they've got players. And to go to my own home state and pick on Pennsylvania a little bit, my 6A teams are good, but my 1A teams, they're fun to watch because I love that. I'm a purist, but Georgia's 1A teams will dismantle any of Pennsylvania's 1A teams, and that's the thing that I find. And I think that Georgia may play right now, along with Alabama, some of the most physical football, play to play. I mean, I've enjoyed watching football here in Georgia.
Yeah, depth really matters with Georgia football, just because the brand is so physical. I've seen teams that start out the season just with super athletes, but when you get past that first line, that first string, that they've got very little depth, and that's why a lot of teams, when they come into a Lowndes or in Colquitt, they just get worn out by the fourth quarter. Our teams just tend to run away with the games.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff. When we interviewed the American Heritage coach a few weeks ago, Mike Smith, the new coach, he was talking about when he goes to Lowndes this year, he brings 45 players on that trip. And Lowndes is going to have over 150 players on the sideline. So that's a perfect example.
Yeah. And one of the fun teams that I've gotten a chance, I've seen them in person, and now I remember watching them on Flow last year beat Buford. But Chaminade Madonna, people go like they're a 3A champ in Florida. I mean, come on, how can they look at their strengths of the schedule, who they beat? I mean, that's been a fun program to watch. And again, you don't see a whole lot of subs on the sidelines when they come to play.
Hey,
Jeff, while we're talking about Florida, let me get your opinion on this. A few weeks ago, the state of Florida did a little, what I call a seismic shift when it comes to reclassification. How do you think that metro suburban split is going to affect the national scene, if any?
I haven't really given that a lot of thought. I did shake my head when I saw it because, like Joe, I believe that to be the best, you have to play the best. I didn't like the move. I'm sure there are going to be some programs out there that have gotten to, state quarters or state semis or even the state championship games. And because of who they were playing, maybe
Right.
they were a heavy underdog and didn't win. So I guess that could be a good thing. But I think most people that want to be the best, want to beat, a Miami Central along the way.
That's right.
Or a St. Thomas Aquinas. So I don't know. To be honest with you, it's going to be something probably I'll have to take a look at after the season, how it affects the algorithm. So I don't think it's going to affect anything in 2022 to answer your question directly about it.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jeff, when you brought up Chaminade Madonna before, wanted to let you know that in our South Florida versus the USA event in that week, I don't know what it is, one down in Florida, 826. We have Chaminade Madonna going to be hosting St. John's out of DC. It's going to be a great game.
It is. I just love the attitude of that program, right? I mean, and that's the other thing that I think's changed through the years. I mean, I'm 62, so I've been doing this for over 45, 46 years, is the fact that just coaches just want to, be the best, and they're not afraid to say it. For example, Jason Negro at St. John Bosco out in California. We want to win a national championship. Bruce Rollinson at Mater Dei. We want to win a national championship. That's changed. There are people now literally, and I know we're part of that problem, if you will, if people call it a problem. USA Today started the rankings, and there was the prep poll that's been around for a while now, Max and us. But I think that's unique that coaches now say that they will, they still want to win the Trinity League. They still want to win a state title, but now coaches are willing to admit that they want to play for a national title.
That's right.
I don't call it natty either. I'm not adopting that word yet.
All right. So this question kind of strays away from, polls and direct teams, that kind of stuff. But it may become a big factor going forward in prep football. And that is, Jeff, it just seems like this NIL stuff with college is starting to flow downhill and show up on the high school scene. Do you think the high school football world is in for a reckoning when that stuff is just everywhere? How's it going to affect it? If I had to ask you to put your crystal ball hat on, how do you think NIL affects high school football going forward, if any?
Well, I think we're going to see probably in the next 2 or 3 years. I mean, we've already seen it with what the kid from Ohio went to Ohio State, Ewers from South Lake Carroll. Yeah, it's going to trickle down, and I think you're going to basically what you can probably do is look at whatever ranking you like, if it's 24/7's composite or whatever, and you're going to see the top 10 or 15 that are going to be definitively affected. And then when you couple that with the portal, somebody asked me the other day, do you like the NIL? I said, no, but I like it a little bit more than the portal. So I think you're going to see a lot of high school kids lose out on opportunities as a result of all of this. But the NIL specifically, yeah, you're going to have some kids that are going to be making some nice money. And I don't know if there's anything positive. I don't think there's a positive effect on that, because what I always say to people when they say, why do you do high school football? I said, it's the last bastion of amateurism in America. And, slowly but surely, we're going to see that be eroded. And, who knows 20 years from now, hopefully I'm around here to figure that out if I was right or wrong. But I don't think it's going to be good.
I think there's two consequences that that NIL is going to have a dramatic effect on high school football that people aren't talking about yet. I think it's as it grows at the high school level, I think you're going to see more and more senior high school players opt out of their senior season to protect themselves for that NIL deal that's just around the corner at the college level. And then two, I think some of these bigger schools, whether you're in Metro Atlanta or South Georgia or wherever, I think they're going to get creative in using local businesses to use this as a recruiting tool. I just don't see any way to avoid it.
Yeah, I have a close friend who I've been close friend of the family. I'm more friends with the family, but the young man I've kind of mentored a little bit through his career, a good high school player, went on to play in the Pac-12 and now's in the portal. And I've kind of gotten an up close and personal look at how the colleges are using it. So, imitation is the biggest form of flattery.
Yep.
I think, you will see, to your point, Larry, that, that may trickle down at some point in some way. And you're going to see kids that don't play, they're hedging their bets, right? I understand it. You don't want to blow out a knee your senior year and blow everything in front of you. But the whole game of football, if you look at the percentages, it's all a big crapshoot, right?
That's right.
We all know that it's less than 2% that go from high school football on up, and we also know in the NFL draft every year that most of the guys that are getting drafted may have been 2s or 3s as opposed to 4s and 5s. So, you don't get back your high school years. As a 62-year-old, I now sound like my grandfather, right? But now I get it. Mm-hmm. Play that final year of high school football. I think it's great. And when I see kids that have the opportunity to go and take the money and stay, I'm like, man, I just want to root for that kid so hard and for his program so hard.
And Jeff and Larry, just to let you know how popular the NIL stuff is getting, Prep Gridiron Logistics was approached by one of the biggest law firms that is putting together these NIL deals for high school athletes. And they want to partner with us for our member schools.
Wow.
Because I could give them access to the top 300 schools in America and their star players. So I have law firms calling me saying, hey, let's do a deal together. So that's what it's gotten to right now. Now, nothing's been done yet, but the fact that they're calling on me, wanting to work with me, shows you how important it is to some.
Yeah,
wow.
It's going to change the face of the game. There's no doubt about that. But again, I like what Joe said about me. I'm a purist, so I'll still do what I do as a company, but it'll just I'll just go see more 8-man games or more 1A games or whatever. I've been known to be a little crazy to do stuff like that.
Well, here's the last question that I have for you, and it touches on you and your company. This is the off season, so we're all scrambling around for content to fill up your off season. What do you focus on? Do you truly take an off season, or do you gear up for this following season? What is Jeff Fisher working on right now with High School Football America?
Off season? What's that word? Can you define that for me? I have
Absolutely.
I have no idea.
This is football. There's no rest in football.
And Larry, in the world of high school football promoting, the off season is when the season starts. Basically.
I got you.
Yeah, I will say I've gotten better at trying to take a little bit of January off because I'm fried by the end of the season. There's no doubt about that. No, we're doing a lot of stuff right now. Our partnership with NFL Play Football has kind of upped this a little bit. What we're really doing is focusing on the game, keeping retention of the numbers up, and working on getting coaches great things, kind of just stuff that they can use in the off season to get them ready. And then talking about a lot of the players that played on Sundays that are now coaching in the high school ranks, which there are a lot of those people right now. So there is no off season. And I think, I was listening to, I can't remember which talk show I was listening to the other day, but it was a good point. It used to be, and I was a baseball guy, I played through college. I thought it was a lot of fun for the hot stove league in baseball, right? The trades going into the winter meetings and all that. Well, baseball's gone from the hot stove league to the back burner, and football truly is a year-round sport now. Whether you like the NFL or not, the NFL has done a great job of dominating the way it segments its season, dominating the news cycle, or the sports news cycle, I should say. So there's no off days, and I kind of love that because this is why I'm here. Joe knows this. God put me on this earth to tell the story of America through the lens of high school football. So it's great. We will start April 1. Well, our academic All-America team is coming out April 4. So on April 5, I turn up the flame on getting to those preseason rankings that I hate so much.
Gotcha. Okay. Joe, what else you got?
That was it. We have other questions here, but you seem to have answered them along the way about top states in your algorithm that are upcoming and other things like that. So I think we're good to go. I appreciate Jeff for what he's doing. We'll continue to debate during the season. Him and I, we're always pushing each other to be better, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's always a lot of fun. And again, the great thing about the high school football family and I mean that from everything from the coaches to the fans and everything in between. It's just fun, and it's for a love of. And if we are kind of getting a little heated in our debates, it's just because we love the sport. And I still believe, though, that football is very, very healthy at the high school level, and it's going to be. Yes, we've got a little NIL problem here and this and that, but I think overall the game is as safe as it's ever been. And I think the quality of the game is really, really great. And I just appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with me, and I appreciate what you guys do to promote the sport. I mean, we need more people like all of us to make sure that it stays a healthy sport and something that people love to do on a Friday night in the fall.
Well, we certainly appreciate you joining us this morning. Hey, guys, if you've enjoyed this segment with Jeff Fisher, you can follow him at highschoolfootballamerica.com. And he does a fantastic job of keeping us all informed on the national scene, gets into the regional football as well. So we want to thank him for his time this morning. And if you enjoyed following our site, you can catch us at nationalhsfb.com. Until we see you guys next time, y'all have a great day.